Today, we are talking about data import using FBDI, HDL, HSDL. What is FBDI? HSDL, HDL, we'll see that. Data exchange between Fusion and any other system is primarily of two types, outbound and inbound. Outbound is taking data out of Fusion using programs called extracts or BI reports. Inbound is bringing data into Fusion using FBDI, HDL, HSDL. Using FBDI means file-based data import. HCM means HCM data loader. HDL is HCM data loader. HSDL is HCM spreadsheet data loader. Okay, so you have outbound and inbound. This is a high level data interaction in terms of inbound and outbound. When the data is coming into Fusion, we call it as inbound. The file formats can be different, Excel, DAT, CSV, TXT, and so on. From that file, we load it into the interface, or also called as the staging table. Okay. Usually there's a huge amount of data, but the data should protect the data integrity of the application tables. So you can't just load data from any data into the application tables. It has to be as per the application validation rules. Different means are used for different modules. Okay, so you have HCM tables, you have financial tables, procurement tables, into which the data gets loaded from the staging or interface table into the actual tables. Okay. All right. Now, when we enter the data through the application, data goes into the actual HCM tables. Okay, that is where all your data should go final when you are loading data through the inbound programs. Okay. Now, when you run the outbound program, when you want to send data out of Fusion, you read the data from the actual HCM tables and load the data into different files. And those files are sent across to vendors or to any other application. So the file formats include email, XML, XLS, DAT, CSV, TXT, PDF, all of them. Okay. So here, when we are talking about FBDI, HDL, and HSDL, we primarily talk about inbound interface. That means data is coming into Fusion. In case of on-prem applications, we have the luxury of creating a custom table where the file is loaded. But in case of Fusion, we cannot create tables as and when required. But the steps are almost the same. We load the data into the staging table. We run validation to check for errors. And once the data is clean, then we import the data into the Oracle interface tables by running the programs. So there are different programs which are used. This model is also followed when we do the data, the APDI process, where the data is loaded into interface tables. From the interface tables, the data get into the actual Oracle tables. So there are interface import programs like create invoices in receivables, payables invoice program, receivables result import program, which load the data into the actual tables. Okay, anyone? Any question? Now, when we are doing the file-based data loading, which is using HDL, we enter the data in a .dat file, okay? And then we load it into Fusion by zipping the file. The file goes into the web center. From there, we run the data loader program, which will import the data into the staging tables. Okay. If there are any errors, we need to correct the error and load the, once the errors are corrected, the data will get loaded into the actual application tables. Okay. So we use FBDI process to import journals, payable invoices, receivable invoices, customer data, vendors. All these are typically FBDI process. Primarily, you can say the financial data that we load into Fusion. So when we want to run the FBDI, these are the steps that we need to follow. Okay, I'll come back to this later on. First, we'll look at the HDL, and then we will see how we can load these. This is journal, customer upload. So this is the screen where you can do the customer management. You can download the customer spreadsheet and then upload it. Just like we did the ledgers and all that, we downloaded the Excel and then uploaded it. Similarly, we can do this. Now, there are 4 keys in the application which we need to keep in mind. They are called as source key, user key, Oracle Fusion Surrogate ID, and Oracle Fusion Globally Unique ID, GUID, Surrogate ID, User Key, Source Key. So source key, user key, what are their meanings? They are basically there to ensure uniqueness of your record. Globally unique ID is across all data. The data is going to have one unique ID, which is generated by the system. We do not do anything. System does it and passes over. Surrogate ID is also similar, where the ID is generated by the application or the database whenever a data is inserted. User key is what we pass as a user, a unique ID that will be passed. And the source key is the key that is passed from through the source. Okay. File format. Whenever you send a file, the file typically has different pieces. Okay. Let me see if there is a format. The first line that has to be there in that file is the metadata, which is the column names of your object that you are loading. You can also put comments which are read-only. which are not processed, which are not imported by the application. Okay, they're just for your information. Then we have merge. Merge command tells the system that these are the values that have to be loaded or edited. Delete, we remove any column values that we need to do. That is done using the delete command. Okay. Remember, each DAT file must have at least one metadata line. Metadata must have the column names of the data for which value is being passed. Merge and delete are not passed in the same file. Okay. So what are the steps for running the data loader? We need to create a lookup. You know how to create a lookup. The name of the lookup type is HRC source system owner. So you need to create the lookup and have a lookup code, maybe student SP, Fusion 2, Fusion 1, whatever you want to call it. Then identify the fields that require to be loaded in the DAT file. And then we run the import file and then load the file and check records in the application to confirm that the data has been loaded. Okay. So these are largely the steps to load the data file. Now, where do we get these files? In the application, there is a place where you can go and call the business object. That business object has the metadata. All the columns are there. You only need to get the mandatory and the ones that you need, which is a .dat file. Then you zip the file and then you load the file into the application. Import and load data. Then you browse and select the .zip file from the desktop or the web center. And you submit the file by choosing the import only or import and load option. Okay. Now I have signed into the application. From my client groups, I go into data exchange. Can you see this tile, data exchange? And here you will see the different parts like HDL, HSDL, and so on. Okay. So this one is the HCM data loader. This is the HCM spreadsheet data loader. Okay. Now here, when you click on this, you get to see the view business objects. Click on it. Here you can see all the business objects that are there. Why do we call it business objects? Because they are not strictly the table names. They are a combination of all the tables, okay, that are included in the business object. For example, if you are looking at person, person includes person details like person number, names, secure social security, address, which are all different tables. So when we say business object, we refer to one entity, for example, worker. And for that worker, we'll get one or more than one file through which we can load the data. Okay, you see here worker. Now here, this is the file, template file, which you can download and read. You can also click on the business object here, which will allow you to get inside and you look at the attributes. We call it attributes, not columns. They loosely translate into the columns itself. So name of the file is something which has to be this, okay, worker.dat has to be the file name. Otherwise, system cannot read it. Remember that. Okay. So once you click the details, so let me open this file in parallel. And here you can see the format of the file. So here you can see this is comment. All these are comments. That means these will be ignored. They are there for information. Next is the metadata. So this tells you what is the metadata. This is the name of the object and the different fields which are here. Okay. So for an worker, you will find there are different metadata inside it. Okay. So here you see one is for address, one is for citizenship, one is for person delivery method, driver's license, personal email, ethnicity. Whenever there is an issue with the file or you need to load a file, always download the latest file or check with the latest file. Obviously, there are so many columns here, it is very easy to get confused. okay, which is normal. You can get lost within this file itself. National identifier, passport, person phone, person religion, user information, user manuals, person visa, relationship, work terms, assignment, everything is here which can be loaded. Okay. And once we go back here, oh my God. In the same way, you can load work structures like location, job, position, grade, department, and all. Okay. See. So this location file is a smaller file. This is the comment. This is the metadata. So what we have done is we have stripped the basic information from the file. Whatever is not needed has been removed. The source system owner here is student SP. So we need to create a lookup where we will have to have the student SP. This is the source system owner. This is the source system ID, which is the unique identifier. Okay. This is the effective start date, effective end date. This is the set code. This is the location code, location name, description, active status, address, 1, 2, 3, etc. Got it, everyone? Anyone, any question on this? Now to load this file, we need to go to, looks like there is a problem with the application. Okay, dev 59 seems to be working. Okay, so first what I'll do is I'll go to the lookup and create a lookup code. Setup and maintenance. Search. Go to manage common lookups. Look for the lookup type source system owner. Okay. Over here, you need to create a lookup code for yourself. So you can call it as student SP. Save and close. Done. Next, we go into the data exchange. My client groups. Data exchange. We have already seen the business object. Next is import and load file, load data. And this is where you can review, you can look at the messages, you know how many successfully loaded and so on. And here you can import the file. Choose the file. Your file has to be the zip file. Okay. Always it has to be the zip file. Okay. File name, zip file name can be anything, but inside it, the file name has to be correct. If you click on review parameters, you can see the parameters. See the file action here is import and load. Other option is import. Import means it will only load it into the interface table. Import and load means it will load the data into interface table and from there into the actual tables. Okay. Rest of it, you can leave it as default and then say submit. Ensure that the source system owner code that you gave is the same that you have given in your file. Okay. Now this file is visible here. You can click on the refresh to see the progress. So inside it, it has found the following files. First step is to load it into the interface table and from there into the actual, load it into the actual table. So first import and then load. So it has found a total of 30 lines. The breakup is in location, there's 4 lines, 2 in grade, 14 in job, 6 in organization, 4 in position. The green tick means it's completed, blue means it's in progress. So now all the files have been imported into the staging table. That is the load status is 100%. This import is 100%. Next is the load process where it's going to start. So far, nothing has been loaded. So load status is failing. You can wait till everything is completed. Failed objects, when you click on the number here, you can see the message and you can see what is the problem. This one, 100% success. That means all the locations have been created. This one, there is an error. So if you want to look at the error, you can read it. Wait for the load status to complete. This one is still being loaded. So if you remember when we were creating departments, position, jobs, to create a position, you need a job and a department. So now see, this is completed. This is in progress. So overall load status is in error. Why this is an error? Because of the grade. All rest of them are completed successfully. If you look at the messages, it will tell you what is wrong with that file. You need to correct this file and then reload. Okay. So it says source system owner value is unknown. That means whatever source system owner has been provided in that file is incorrect. If you click on this number 2, you can see the individual records which are there. Okay. Source system identifier is the source system owner is given as SP here. It should be student SP. Got it? So what you can do is you will have to correct this in the file and reload it. Okay. So you have to go to that particular file, grade, and here you will see instead of SP, you have to call it as student SP. You can just run this file or you may rerun the entire file. Got it? Everybody okay? Understood? Anyone got any question? Anyone got any question? Okay, if you go to the right hand side here, you can look at the object details. where it will give you column wise what are the data, what are the data items that are being loaded. Okay, if I click on this, I will see the individual columns here. Okay, got it? So what are the steps to run the file? Here are the steps to run the file. First, you need to create the source system owner. First, you need to create the source system owner. Prepare the data file in the appropriate format. Okay, and .dat must be the file name. And you create a zip file. And then you go to My Client Group, Data Exchange, HCM Data Loader, Import and Load Data. Browse and select the .zip file from the desktop or the web center, and then submit the file for processing by choosing either import only or import and load. You can select import and load so that at one shot, everything will get done. Okay. And how do you create the source system owner? You have to go to the Manage Common Lookups, HRC Source System Owner, Student SP, then you correct the file and you import. Once its lookup code is created, you go to Data Exchange and load your file. Clear? I will send you the workflow structure file, which is the sample file. There you need to make the necessary corrections and load your data. Anybody got any doubt?
No, sir.